Thank you for listening to the Field Report. We're going to do a little history lesson, so I thought I would just pull out the map, and I have this map up here. And of course, that's the 50 states of the United States, and knowing the origins of the states without having to go into that right now, we're just going to pick up with the current 50 states, each color coded, shows you the boundaries. Each state has these boundaries, obviously, and they call it interstate laws. And then, of course, each state has different requirements, right? So if you're a citizen of that state, you would have to pay the taxes and etc. So you have to earn your residency. And here in Pennsylvania, it takes 2 years to be a resident of Pennsylvania. So that's a state issue here. I lived in North Carolina for a short time, so I had to become a resident of Pennsylvania again. In order to become a resident, I have to live here for 2 years. So I wanted to leave that map up to say this. If it takes 2 years to become a resident, which I've grown up in the United States and I've served my country, and it takes 2 years for that. But for an immigrant, what are the requirements to become a citizen of the United States? Because a lot of these immigrants have had so much help to get on their feet to become citizens that if none of us have ever gotten that kind of help ever. So there would be an incentive to come to the United States. I find that odd because that's exactly what the issue in Syria is. That a lot of people that I've heard from these reports, that most of those people did not want to go to United States. They want to go back to Syria. So I'm not quite sure I understand why it is that we would get mixed up in Syria. It just seems like every time, luckily we don't get into a crisis, but I don't know that as the United States, as we have seen how to get mixed up in these things, that I guess a concern is that there are people on the ship right now that don't understand why they're there. So there's something missing here, because we're not really sure what it is our position is. All we know is that right now we could get mixed up into a big war that, to me, which a lot of people call it World War III, and we really don't know why we're there. And so it's pretty simplistic because most people are young and they want to know why they're in that region right now. And I'd like to know because, there has to be an interest it has to be a corporate interest. We've lost lives in wars and we've been dragged through wars. And to me, I think it's a huge mistake that we engage in a war, especially because we know America has to take care of American business first. And our borders, as you can see from this map, or on the map, we have border issues. And I found this report and I'm startled by it. And I'm also startled by some of the other things I've read online about, just things that are happening in America. And we've been through this before, but what's different this time is that we weren't awake before 9/11. We are now. And we're learning, and we took classes, and we study, and we read, and that's all we do is study now, okay? And sometimes I think I want to know more, and then sometimes I'm like, I really don't want to know more. And when I heard this from a friend of mine who's been on the ship at the USS CARL VINSON, it troubles me because Americans don't have a strategy to win. And we got guys and young women and young men are in uniform. They are wondering what's happening in America because they are there right now. And I'm thinking to myself, this should be important to the person that's in a podium at a church or at a business meeting tomorrow, or packing up your kids to go to school, because there are kids right now that are on a ship right now They're trying to figure out why are we in that region right now. Because we got 100 senators that are going to meet with President Trump tomorrow, and they have to decide what we're going to do. Because we got kids that need to be home or shipped somewhere, and we're in this like gray area here, okay? And the more I try to pay attention, I'm trying to put this together, and it has to make some kind of sense, because it doesn't make sense to these young men and women while we're there, and I'm trying to make sense of it myself. So I would like to know if you all have some feedback here, because I'm trying to figure it out myself, and all I know is that we don't have secure borders right now. And if we were in a situation to win a war, we can't go in there unarmed, untrained, not with no experience. We are sitting ducks is what I'm saying. It's like putting our kids in a suicide mission. We're simply not ready for this. And the idea that we would put anyone in this kind of harm's way right now says a lot about what's happened over the last 20 years since 9/11, which was approximately a little bit, I mean, to be accurate, 16 years. We were told that when we were to go over to Iraq, that we were going to spread democracy. I mean, this is a fallacy. This is retarded. We were sold a lot of crap, okay? And a lot of us believed it. And even after all that, I don't know. I'm kind of concerned, I guess, for many reasons. I ask myself, why are we mixed up in this again? And, we've been telling a lot of our friends and family, this isn't just political. I can't side with liberals on some things, because their plan is different from ours. I have to look at it from not a political view. I got to look at it from the view of a parent or somebody who served in uniform. We need to get our people in and out of there. That's all it is. We don't need to be mixed up in any long wars like we just came out of that freaking quagmire called Iraq, Afghanistan. It is a quagmire. It's ridiculous. We lost so many people, casualties that we shouldn't have not lost these people in war. We were sitting ducks, and I'm disgusted. I'm sitting here wondering why would anyone send our troops, our young men and women, into this kind of danger? And you know that if you fly in a helicopter in a flight pattern that is destined for death, and the soldiers on board know they're on a suicide mission and they realize what's happening, would you want to know what the last thoughts of those young men and women are thinking about? Because I'm wondering that right now. I mean, we're on the brink of war, and more people are so concerned about makeup and hair and all this other stuff. Your priorities are so different from what most of us have already gone through. My parents and grandparents grew up in the post-war era, and America was a different place. And I think the only thing that comes out of war is people suffer. And when they come out of that, they don't look at the world the same. That's mostly what soldiers feel. They come back to America, and America's priorities are different from what's happening in the front lines. I get it, okay? It's so different when we think about the threats that are being made about America today and have been for some time. And you can't even call your brother or sister and ask them what to do. How do you plan for this? Are they prepared for this? No, absolutely not. We're not. Because I have to think to myself, like, if a church doesn't want to cooperate, and they're renting out their sanctuaries to imams who have no plans to cooperate. I like the fact that all our church pastors are willing to cooperate. Good luck there, because when they take over these churches, they have no plans on working it out. Okay? So if they were to pull the 501c3 forms, or tax exempt status, I apologize for that. So it leaves another vacancy, just like what happened in Iraq, another gap, and guess who fills in the void? It's always like this, and this is what happened in Iraq, and it's happened in our churches in the United States, because if you were to study this report from Josh Tolley, thank you, Josh Tolley, because I really think we have a huge problem here. There's really something missing here, because I have to tell you, every teacher, everyone that goes to school probably doesn't want to have they don't want to have a target on their back either, you know. We got to understand the enemy, and what the enemy is chanting over there in Iran, and they're buddies with the North Koreans, and who else is buddy? Like, everybody has a beef with us to some degree or another. Hey, listen, at the end of the day, it's America first, and we got to keep our president safe, and that's the way it is, because that's the way we were trained. And as far as I'm concerned, when I look at that map and I'm thinking about each American, that some of the concerns that are happening in California, you know, there's a fault line that has been erupting for several years, and it becomes normalized. And the New Madrid fault line has been shaking, so is Yellowstone, and then, so we have some weather events, and we've had some things happen. The BP oil spill. I mean, there are things that probably have been, whether we look at it or not, probably sabotaged, I'm sure of it. You have open borders. I mean, our country's been sabotaged, whether we realize it or not. You don't have this many train derailments and not something adds up after a while. It doesn't take a scientist to figure it out. Something's going on here. We've been sabotaged in different areas, and we haven't had anyone to protect our own borders. And there are people out of work right now that could go back to work right now. Because, I mean, listen, if I was an average police officer, and the threats that are being made about police officers right now, those threats are real warnings. They're literally sending letters to our police department. So I'm thinking about all the average American women and men that serve in uniform or have served. They're probably thinking the same thing. We're freaking sitting ducks right now. And we want our borders to be protected for a reason. We're not sitting here making a political statement. We're telling you it's the absolute survival of our nation. And to make this into a political debate, because that's what the problem is. This is not a political issue. It's about basic protecting your friends, your family, your neighbor. That's what this is about. This is not politicizing anything. You can have your political football any other time, but when it comes to the basic safety of our own citizens over there in El Paso, who know they have seen heads roll, literally. My goodness, I grew up around family that served in World War II and Korean War. We got some real pansies out there that they're ready to throw our own people under the bus. I cannot understand that. My goodness, man. I cannot agree with all this other stuff that's going on, because I know the political winds have changed. And it's different because people are ready to bail out on Donald Trump, and they're ready to call it a day, and they're done. They're done, right? I get it. But listen, the enemy has been at war with America. It's not us looking for a fight. We got to find a strategic position, because our ports have been sabotaged. Our Gulf has been exploding there in the Gulf of Mexico. At some point, you get the bigger picture. Look at the map for a second. You got Dearborn, Michigan, has its own set of problems because Sharia law, they want to introduce that. And then you got the whole Canadian border, which, of course, if you were to go up there, which I haven't, so I don't know. I mean, every area of the United States, I'm looking at the map right now, every area of the United States could be vulnerable within itself, around. But you know what's more dangerous is the idiots that want to destroy America, whether you're from Iran and you're one of those people that hates America and says, death to America, death to America. My concern is not that we don't want to be nice to people. That's not it. It's not about gender as much as they want it to be about gender, because there are plenty of people that are on the catwalk that probably are not women, because no woman is shaped like that. I know, because I'm a woman. We have bellies and stuff. These women don't. I mean, you believe what you want to believe, but that doesn't seem real to me at all. But what does sound real to me is preparing your community and get a grip about this, because I'm trying to understand it, because these people that are serving in uniform want to know what's going to happen, and they're ready to, I don't know, something's happening, because there's a drill tomorrow somewhere in the New Jersey, New York region, and they called 100 senators to the White House. Are we prepared for whatever is about to happen? Because I'm not quite sure, but we need people to cooperate, and I don't know that this will get out to those people that need to hear it, but I'm just trying to figure it out. I know it sounds like I'm trying to unravel a maze, because I am. I'm not quite sure, but I know there's a lot of people are wondering what is it to these reports, because they could shut down our media looking at the way things have been going. We need to have basic communication, and part of my job is to kind of get a better picture of this, and I'm not quite sure I'm doing a good job of this, but I'm doing my best. But basic communication means having satellite radios, and there are ways to have satellite communications, because at this point, to me, what if your cell phone doesn't work? What if that dude over there in North Korea launches an EMP? You have to have some ability to have light, candles, use Vaseline, make sure you have some matches where they can stay dry. Get some storable food, because storable food works, okay? I'm not just saying get storable food because, just to say. I'm saying that we've wasted so much food because food goes bad really quickly. And it's a waste of money, and it's a hassle. So you're really better off with storable food. Overall, make sure you have extra blankets. Try to communicate with your neighbors. Get together, talk to each other. Try to at least do that much. We got to establish it this way. So I'm putting this message out to those who are my neighbors or in my community, and I'm going to send this link out to some of you. But we do have an election coming up here in Pennsylvania. I'm kind of concerned about our law enforcement, because these threats are real that have been made, and, they're sending letters. And, one of the things that really bothers me is that veterans' addresses have been really sold to, I just don't want to say anymore. I'm really bothered by this, because we are veterans and we are military. And, if you want to take out the strength, you take out your veterans and your military first. So to me, whether there are church leaders that agree or not, this is not a debate. See, they got to understand who the enemy is. And then for some reason or another, people are confused about this, because they're not going to be busting down anyone's doors. The thing is, you have to be able to respond, and you got to be able to take commands and speak when you're spoken to. Don't talk back. Don't lash out, please. If you're not trained, here's some training tips. Obey commands, okay? The less people fight off, especially when we're on the same team, just try to connect, okay? Be a team player, please. Because when it gets chaotic and confusing, there's always going to be somebody that's going to snap off, and that's dangerous. So just always try to remain calm in the middle of a crisis, please. I'm concerned because I am getting these reports, and I'm wondering what's going on myself. And my concern is that we have to be a little more prepared than the way we are, how to respond and react. If you don't know what operational security, here is a quick study. It's what's going on around you in your perimeter, meaning you take a big circle around your car, and that's your perimeter. Operational security. It's called operational security. Just keep it very basic and simple. Make sure your doors are closed and everything's locked up before you go to bed. I would recommend that people rotate. This is the way to do it. Here's some basic survival things. If it's raining, you want to make sure you have garbage bags Sandwich bags keep your feet warm. Your feet are important, okay? Stay warm, especially when it's raining out, okay? And if you have the ability to have like a small little garden in your house, make sure you're planting some extra food. You don't know what's going to happen with the grocery store, so just have extra on hand. Looking at what's going on in Venezuela, you could take some note there. It's always good to have survival seeds, because I'm telling you, I think there's about over 70% of Venezuelans are starving right now. And that's because they've been inundated with war for that long. So as a finale of the field report, because I'm not quite sure what happens after this, I just want to say this. I mean, for somebody not prepare their family, to not prepare the community, to me, it's atrocious, because you do have people that panic because they are not prepared, and they don't understand that somebody's not looking out for them. And in a world right now where people don't reach out and aren't sensitive to these things, I am, and many people are. So I took the time to do this homework, not because I like to, believe me, because I care. Because I care. And I care enough to say this, that it is good to be prepared and trained and alert. This is what you should be. You shouldn't be looking the other way. I think it's because there's this cognitive dissonance, or this ability, or ignore it, but you know what something's going on in your peripherals, okay? This is about basic survival. Learn helplessness is taught too. And we're trying to unlearn it really quickly, because you got to snap out of it right away. I mean, like anyone, if you know something's about to happen, I would just do some basic security steps. Just look around you. It's important. It's for survival. Thank you.